All right. I am the host now, so I am recording. Good evening, everybody. Let me check that. All right. My volume on. Everybody here? Yes, no.
You typically don't need volume, do you, Dale?
No, if you're
Okay.
if you're in the region, I don't need much volume.
The general vicinity, I think, takes care of it.
Just open the window. You can hear me most anywhere. Welcome everybody. This is our interviewing night we do every semester in preparation for job interviews coming up for fall positions. Before we get started, let me mute everybody, and then we will go to our invited guests. So invited guests, you will have to unmute yourself. First, I'm going to call on Dr. Jennifer Putnam. Dr. Putnam is the program coordinator for the EDCI program. That's the doctorate in curriculum and instruction. So without any further ado, Dr. Jennifer Putnam.
Hello, I'm really happy to be here with you tonight. In the curriculum and instruction program, we focus on curriculum leadership. We have in our program lots of assistant principals, and instructional coaches, as well as practice and classroom teachers. We have a few people from central office who are in the program. The curriculum instruction program really focuses on learning curriculum, learning how to lead others in designing curriculum. And some of the evidences we do are we do a program evaluation, a family community engagement project. We do some professional development, learning how to give professional development, and we create some very specific professional development for teachers and for others across the state. So I would love for you to join us in that program. So a lot of our people, as they leave the program, they go on and work in higher education. Some of them, if they have their principal's license, move on to that and stay in that realm. A lot of them end up adjuncting at other places. So that's kind of what we focus on. I will say that in all of our programs in EDCI and in EDLS, as well as DEOL, we give our doctoral candidates an opportunity to first work as assessors with undergraduate students at Gardner-Webb. And then from there, we allow some people, if there's a need, to work as a co-teacher, and then a co-instructor in a higher ed course. And then several of our graduates and some of our people who are still in the program have moved on to full adjunct work within the College of Education. And one of the, I always say, one of the really weird things about higher education is that you have to have experience in higher education before you can get a job in higher education. And so it's a catch-22. So our programs, both EDCI and EDLS specifically, but DEOL too, give you that opportunity to have experience on your resume or your CV by the time you're finished. And so if you're looking to move into higher education in any realm, then that's something that you should consider. And I'll stop there.
Okay, Dr. Putnam, if you would check the chat, we have a specific question that you can answer directly to that student about licensure.
Well, so licensure in North Carolina, you'll have to For licensure, you take the Praxis 5412, which if I'm not mistaken, is going to be the same license that you take as you in your school at admin. So
Yes.
if you have the coursework when you take that license, my guess is that you could apply to have the curriculum instructional specialist license at the master's level added to your license. For the doctoral level, it's the same test. So if you've already taken it, you just up your degree on your license. So all of our programs are 6 semesters. Well, there are 6 semesters of coursework. So 2 years, depending on when you start, but let's say fall, spring, summer. And then after that, you work on your dissertation. And I know Dr. Laws can also speak to this, but one of the real benefits of Gardner-Webb is, and if you know anybody who's working on their doctorate who's not at Gardner-Webb, they can attest to you that this is true. But one of the strengths of our program is that we provide very specific and targeted dissertation help starting in semester 1. And you take dissertation seminars right along your regular courses. So by the time that you are finished with coursework, so in 2 years, you have the ability, if you've done all of the work that you're supposed to have done and you've put in all the effort, you have the ability to have a proposal ready to go right out of the gate. And a proposal is in essence the first 3 chapters of your dissertation, and then there's only 2 more to go. So a dissertation has 5 chapters. So hopefully, if you've done everything right, you would have 60%-ish of your dissertation already written in 2 years. That's our hope. That doesn't always happen, but that's the way the programs are designed. Dr. Laws?
Dr.
do you wanna-
Laws?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm unmuted. I was waiting to be called. All right, thank you, Dale, for letting us come tonight, and to all of you for listening to us. You're in for a big night with Dale's session with applying for and interviewing for jobs. So I'm excited for you on that. So for us, and I think you will pick up and have picked up already, we're not competing with each other, the DEOL and the EDCI and EDLS. We all have our niche, and it's up to you if you want to get your doctorate to choose the direction you want to go. For EDLS, we are more in a kind of a general leadership area. We do district level leadership as our focus. We use the aspiring superintendent standards as our evidence standards. And so one could mistake that we are a superintendent development program, and we're not. We have many superintendents in the state of North Carolina who have come through our program, but our goal is not to develop superintendents. Our goal is to better equip you to be a leader, whether it is in a school-based leadership role or a district office leadership role or a church leadership role or a family leadership role or whatever. We talk leadership all the way through. Now we have specific courses we do. We start with strategic leadership, which is the strategic planning that all of you are familiar with in your work world. And then we get into curricular leadership. As opposed to the CNI doctorate, we do a semester on curriculum leadership. Then the third course is human resource development leadership. And it kind of is aligned with the curriculum piece because it is adult learning theory. How do we bring our people along to deliver the instruction and to do the leadership that we need in the schools and the school district? Fourth class is the methodology class, and that is the same with EDCI and EDLS. The fourth class is your methodology class, your research class, and we do quantitative, qualitative, and program evaluation. Both of us do, and so it's very similar in the fourth class. That's the only class that we have in common. Our fifth class is political leadership. and our sixth class is managerial leadership. So we try to kind of run the gamut of what district level leadership looks like. And as Dr. Putnam said, we align you with a dissertation coach from the beginning. So you're kind of going concurrent with working on dissertation ideas and your coursework ideas. Our adjuncts, just as C&I adjuncts are, we have practitioners that teach our classes. A lot of people wonder if you know, with all that you're going through now in the school business, you know, do higher ed people, are we able to relate to what you're going through? And our answer to that is people that you have teaching your classes are going through the same thing. They're currently practicing. None of our professors are as old as Dale Lamb, and so they're all current practitioners in some way. Other than, honestly, to be serious for a moment, you know, obviously I'm a senior citizen and maybe just a tad younger than Steve Stone, and he also works in the EDLS program. So we try to make it fun, but more so we try to make it meaningful. And so our objective is that you honestly want to come to our classes. We do. And again, this is similar, I think, with EDCI. I don't mean to speak for Dr. Putnam. She'd tell me when I'm wrong. I can tell you that. But I think we do 6 to 8 Zooms on a particular night of the week each semester, and then we do 3 weekends face to face. We have cohorts in Charlotte, in Thomasville at Davidson-Davie Community College, in Goldsboro at Wayne Community College, and on the main campus. So we have 4 places where we do face-to-face cohorts. So hopefully one of those is relatively close to where you are. And that's it from me.
Okay.
I have one question, Dr. Lamb. Are these candidates in their last semester?
Some of them are, and the others will be the summer. So they're all available to start in the fall.
Great.
We have about 110 that will be available to start this fall if they were in the program. And so hopefully we'll get some of these folks. But yeah, these are all fall potentials that are with us tonight. This isn't our younger ones. This are our group that's further back. All these are eligible for fall admit. So to kind of summarize the 2 programs there that have taught EDLS and EDCI, the coursework is 2 years, 6 semesters, spring, summer, fall. You come out with your proposal, and so hopefully sometime within the next half year to year you finish. And so the notion is they want everybody out in 3 years. Some folks getting out in 2.5 because that coach is with you all the way through, starts with you, and then transitions into your chair. Now, I'm going to, they probably won't do this, but I'm going to tell you, it's not cheap. It's going to be about $35,000 with the number of hours and the cost per hour and the books. I'd say it might be a biscuit shy of $35,000. Now, I don't know how much financial aid you have left or how much is available. Since you're all practitioners, there aren't like student assistantships or fellowships because you're still working, and so you'd be full-time working and full-time student. So that part, but I don't know about financial aids and loans. That's all individual. But it's going to be about $35,000. But the notion here is it's worth it in terms of the quality of the program, but it's also worth it that you don't want to be as old as me and Stone and Laws when you finish this program. There are a lot of jobs out there. Turnover is at an unprecedented rate right now. A lot of jobs opening up for folks, and time is money. Doesn't do any good to get into a program that's going to take you, that's cheaper every year, but takes you more years. In the end, you can be out of this program 2 to 3 years faster than most programs. And the money is, yes, it's significant, but you know how much it's going to be, and it's not going to be an ongoing thing. So that's my 2 cents worth. With us tonight is Dr. Jeff Hamilton. He's in the Doctor of Organizational Leadership, and we'll let Dr. Hamilton tell us about his program.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to jump in, Dr. Lamb. So our third doctoral program in the College of Education is a doctorate in organizational leadership, which looks at leadership from an organizational perspective, not only for formal leaders who have a title, but also for informal leadership. So the program launched in the fall of 2014, and it is a 3-year program, which is 9 semesters, fall, spring, and summer. And in lieu of a traditional dissertation, your capstone project for this program is a dissertation in practice, which means you will be partnering with an organization that has an organizational challenge and building your expertise. And we are training you to be a consultant with an organization. We are not connected to the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. This is not a licensure program. We are fully accredited by SAC COC, but we are not a subcontractor of the Department of Public Instruction. We have about 65, close to 70 students right now. The majority of those students come in about thirds, so about a third that have some connection to the K-12 world. Have another third that are working in higher education, either as staff or faculty. And the other third are in the various fields. We have folks that come from finance, psychology, sociology, law enforcement, and it is an eclectic mix of professional backgrounds and individuals that come together, and we learn all about organizations, the challenges they have, and how to go through using a practitioner's approach, scholarly practitioner approach into solving the problem. So I did drop my email in there if you have any specific questions. Also a link to the DOL webpage from Gardner-Webb's website. If you look at more, please just reach out to me if you have any questions about what is a dissertation in practice or any other questions about that. I'd be glad to work with you individually and communicate with you and see if this is something that you would be interested in developing your leadership skills from an organizational perspective.
Thank you, Dr. Hamilton. Just as a kind of conclusion, since we don't have a doctoral in higher ed, the organizational leadership serves as Gardner-Webb's doctorate in higher ed. We have a lot of students who work at community colleges, small colleges, and even some larger colleges. And so that is a large segment of folks that are in that program. We have a lot of folks in the city county government, and we have them in other organizations as well. Generally, this program is designed for people who want to move or branch out from the K-12 world. Now, some of our folks are in K-12 and plan to stay, but this gives you the opportunity to do something else or something kind of parallel or different. A lot of folks' second career, looking down the road, working in colleges, those kinds of things. So those are our 3 doctoral programs. All of them pretty much intend for you to be through in 3 years. They cost pretty much the same thing. Time is money. So if you have any questions for any of these folks, I will drop their email and phone numbers when I send out the link to the video recording from tonight. So if you have any questions, please get in touch with these folks. They'll be glad to talk with you.
Dr. Lamb, can I answer this one question?
Sure.
It says, are these requirements MAT or GRE a prerequisite? We aren't currently, if you are graduating from one program and moving into another one at Gardner-Webb, we have an expedited admissions process. So you wouldn't be asked to take another test. If you have scores that are already a part of your record, we'll just look at those. And currently we are, for fall, I think we're still optional about whether or not even to submit MAT or GRE scores.
Right. And so that's my conclusion is the recruitment season is now open. You can go ahead and start the expedited process to get admitted. It's fairly simple and easy. It's good for folks to go ahead and commit early. One of the things that Dr. Law said was they have cohorts spread in different areas around North Carolina, and the sooner they get an idea where folks are, they'll arrange for where those cohorts will be. They don't have them in every place every time other than Charlotte, but the other places are dependent upon need. So the quicker you can get in, the more likely there's going to be something they can arrange the classes in the area that's going to be most convenient to you. Again, going from Bowling Springs to Charlotte to Thomasville to Goldsboro. So they have they have 4 stretched across, but more than likely all those places won't make one in the fall, but the most relevant ones will. So the sooner you can get in, the better off they'll be in terms of planning for classes. All right, any other questions before we jump into interviewing? Faculty, thank you for joining us tonight. You're welcome to stay. I'm going to dive right in. The first document that I'm going to share my screen and show you is, do a share here. Let me close that. The 4 types of interviews. All right, so my assumption is that you will be interviewing for assistant principal jobs. Those of you who are already assistant principals will likely be looking for a principal job. There'll be a small difference, and I'll try to point those out. But the bulk of what I'm going to talk about tonight is about interviewing for an assistant principal position. There are 4 types of interviews. The first round is an applicant pool interview. This is just a cattle call. This separates the wheat from the chaff. This is to find quality candidates. This is for them to kind of figure out, that you aren't going to do. Are you a quality person? Can you be trusted to be in charge if the principal happens to leave? For those of you old enough to remember the Andy Griffith Show, you remember the first season when Andy had to go to Raleigh. First thing Barney did was deputize Otis to town drunk and gave Gomer a gun. Well, that's what they're trying to figure out in this first level of interviews. Are you somebody that we can depend upon and can be trusted with the keys to the building? They're not going to get into content a lot at that level. They're just trying to find out who are quality candidates. And there's a number of different kinds of interviews that they will do. Now, generally, they'll only do one of these 4 kinds, but different districts, sometimes they'll do 2 of these. But generally, the first one is they'll do something with the old Gallup or Strength Finder. Now, when you have Dr. Stone in 605, that's one of the things that he's going to cover with you. But that's basically your dispositional type behavior. And so here are kind of the 5 landmine questions. They'll be asking you questions about your dispositional behaviors. Are you honest? Are you ethical? Are you dependable? Are you responsible? They'll be asking you questions. Now, if they do the full Gallup interview with you, that's 60 questions. Now, a lot of places have gotten away from the full 60 questions. They do them in 5 sections of 12. And if you hit one of the landmine questions and answer it incorrectly at the end of that section, you're done. You got to score 44. Now, they're mostly doing an abbreviated one of that, but if they were to ask you those kinds of questions, the first question they would ask you, the first landmine question in that first level interview is, if there were a law or a policy at your school that you didn't agree with, and you thought was harmful to kids, would you still enforce that law or policy? And of course, the answer is, just like you found out in our second case study in 603, the answer is yes, you will follow the law and policy. You don't equivocate. You don't say, well, I don't want to, or I'd have to think about it. The answer is yes. I always follow law and policy. That's the first landmine question you're going to be asked. And if you say, no, I'm going to do what's right for kids. Just like in our 603 class, that second case study where the superintendent wanted to divide the money up differently and give more to some kids than others. It sounds good on paper, but it's against the law. Can't do that. You've already covered that case study. That's why we have that. That's the first landmine question you'll be asked when you do Strength Finder or Gallup. The second one is are you an on-time person? The answer is yes. I don't care if you're late everywhere you go. The answer is yes. I'm always on time. I'm usually early. How do schools operate? Think about it for a moment. What is the core around that schools operate around is a time clock. Bell ring, go to class. Bell ring, go to next class. How can you supervise people and make sure that they're on the job if you can't show up on time? So that's one of those responsibility questions. Then they're going to ask you a question like, if the pay were the same, would you prefer to be a teacher or an administrator? The answer, of course, is I prefer to be an administrator. You're changing jobs. You're changing careers. You no longer supervise students. You now supervise adults. And if you tell them, oh, if it paid the same, I'd rather stay with the kids, they'll let you stay with the kids. That's a landmine question. The fourth question is do you like competition? And the answer to that question, of course, is yes. I love competition. I thrive on competition. Why? Because that's what schools are, a competitive environment. Our job is to get performance out of students, achievement. So again, if you're asked that question, yes, you like competition. And the last one is do you have any business experience? I don't care if you do or you don't. The answer is yes, you do. Because as you find out in 603, you have to be able to run a business. You have to hire people, you have to evaluate them, you have to let them go, you have to set a budget, you have to write checks, you have to stay within everything that a business does, you're learning in 603, you have to do. And so those are the kinds of questions that you'll be asked if you get a Strength Finder. I can't provide you specific example because all that material is copyrighted and I am a certified trainer, so I can't give it to you for free. All right, in-basket activity. So this is one that you cover in some of your classes. And basically it's a reasoning activity. They'll give you some scenarios and you have to kind of reason through them. One of them will be like the newspaper would like to do a feature on you and need to set up a time to interview teachers and students. And of course, the answer to that is no. And you refer them to your public information office. As you know, we never speak to the media, and we certainly don't give them access to teachers, and we certainly don't give them access to students because of FERPA privacy laws. So that's the answer to that one is no, you can't do that. I'll refer you to our public information office. And then there's some others in here that are pretty easy to work your way through, but it's just a reasoning activity. And then at the end, they ask you to do this. Now here's where the landmine is on this. They ask you to take all those different ones and questions that they just asked you what you would do and to put them in one of these 4 quadrants. Urgent, this is urgent, this email is urgent, and it's important, so I need to deal with it right now. Or it's not urgent, but it's still important. I've got to deal with it at some time. It doesn't mean I got to do it right this minute, but I've got to get to it. Quadrant 3 is urgent, but not important. And then quadrant 4 is not urgent, not important. That's like spam emails. You get those all the time. So now, if you have any of the emails in this activity that go in quadrant 3, you've just disqualified yourself because you're not a rational thinker. Nothing could be urgent, but not important. Urgent means it is important. And so in your in-basket activity, that if they won't, it'll be some version of scenarios like this. Make sure that you're rationally, going through it rationally in terms of, I'm thinking about law, I'm thinking about policy, I'm thinking about best practice in terms of how schools operate, but I'm also thinking, is this urgent or is it not? If it's not, if it's not important, it can't be urgent. So again, this is the kind of a reasoning activity that you would have, that they would have you work through several scenarios in terms of what you would do. And again, law and policy are the ones that you got to be most wary of in terms of giving access, violating FERPA laws, giving out information, having the press on your campus without permission, not following through on a law or a policy, or not getting back to people, not doing due process. Those kinds of things is what the second level type interview would be. All right. And then you could have a virtual interview. That's become very popular, especially during COVID. The trick with virtual interviews is if they give you a body of information and then they're going to ask you questions, write yourself notes on sticky pads, put them around the margin of your computer screen so they can't see you reading your answers if you feel like you need reminders. Here is kind of a summary of a virtual interview. One of my students did. This is what they were asked: what past experiences you have that make you qualified. That's when your competition, business experience, those kinds of things. It's the same kinds of themes. Describe a time when you were under immense pressure, what occurred. Some people believe ELL students can learn. What are your thoughts? Of course, they can learn. They give you a data project to do that they prepared for you. It will be exactly like the app sale. They'll have you and give you some time. They may have a video that they have you watch. What suggestions for improvement would you give your teacher? This would be just like doing a walkthrough. It's the same thing. You're looking for best practices, not what to teach, but how to teach. It's the exact same thing as doing a walkthrough. They'll give you a clip, and it's basically a walkthrough. You would give them the same feedback that you would give if you did a 15-minute walkthrough like you did when you did your app tell. Again, they ask the landmine question on this one. If it was a policy you didn't agree with, of course, the answer is I'd follow the policy anyway. Describe something you initiated at your school. That would be something that you did during your clinical or with one of your PLC that you did for your app sale. That's the best one to use, is the PLC that you did. You tell them about how you did your app sale. That would be the best one. Because you're already, especially if they have you do a data project, it mirrors the app sale already. And then sometimes they have the data analysis project inside the virtual interview. Sometimes they just do a data analysis project. I know a couple districts that aren't even doing this part yet. They give you the data analysis project. If you don't pass it, you don't even get this virtual interview. You just have to do your data analysis project. Now, what that looks like is this. Let's see. Like this. And it's just an app sale is all it is. They give you a set of data. They give you the demographics of the school. They give you teacher turnover rate. They give you reading and math. They give you everything that you got to do your app sale, and you have to come up with a quick plan and tell them what you would do. And so they'll give you a data performance task. Sometimes they do this in combination with the virtual interview. Sometimes they just give you this. But the whole notion here is what they are trying to do is determine if you are a quality person or not that they can go further with. Because they may have 50 people apply for that job. There's not going to be 50 good ones. They're trying to find about 10 good ones that they can actually put through the process to come out with about 5 names. And so you got to be careful that you don't do something dumb or hit one of those landmines or sit and read stuff after that. If you're doing a virtual, you're sitting there with your head down. Of course, you can tell when my head's down because the light blinds you, it glares off the screen. But you're reading again. Get your sticky notes, put them around the outside edge where you look like you're looking at your screen and talking to them, but you can look around the edge of your screen and find your notes. You know as well as I do, you can engage people virtually. If you're talking directly into the camera, you know, it's tough life for folks like me. You know, for me to make it look like I'm looking directly at you, I have to look at myself in the eyes. That's hard to do. But if I look myself in the eye on my monitor, that means I'm looking at your eyes, and it looks like we're engaged, and we are engaged. That's part of that virtual interview. Don't sit and look out the window and talk, or look down and talk, or read your notes and talk. If you need notes, and a lot of people do, if you need notes, put them around your screen. So that's the 4 types of individual interviews that kind of kick off and get you started. If you can get through that, you know, if you can get through that first level, then you're going to get to the group interview. So the group interview is the second. Now, the group interview is going to have a bunch of civilians in it sometimes. Stakeholders, as we call them, people who aren't school people. Now, that's very, very important. That's the whole notion of the second round of interviews is you've got civilians in there. They don't know all the jargon that we know. They don't know what a PLC is. They don't know what double data is. They don't know what PMR, Principals Monthly Report, is. They don't know what average daily membership is, ADM. They don't know any of the acronyms that we know inside the business. And there's going to be maybe a parent or two, a local business person, be a teacher or two. And a lot of teachers don't even know all the acronyms that you know. And if it's a secondary school, there might even be a student there. They're going to see how well you can connect with stakeholders. That's the whole point of the second level interviews, the group interview. So what you have to do is take the question that they give you and translate it on the fly into layman's terms so that they understand what you're saying. Now, the worst thing that you can do is say something like, well, I formed my PLC. Oh, you don't know what that means, because what you said was, you don't know what I mean. What they heard is, you're stupid. And so you have to be so careful with that. You have to translate what you know into what they can understand. That's the whole point of the group interview. That's the second level. A school district approached me a couple, 3 years back. Well, it was before the pandemic. You lose time here, and said, we have never had one of our principals win the district or go on to state competition in the principal of the year. Would you come and set us up a principal of the year system? That we want it to, what we're looking for is for it to yield somebody who can win at the next couple of levels. I said, okay. So I set it up, and I went over and I ran it for them at their central office. And we had these people came in. We had a pastor from the local church. We had this mother who they didn't know, but was a fairly high-powered attorney in Charlotte who commuted every day. We had this group of lay people who came in. And these principal candidates came in and they did all, and I was amazed at some of them did all the bad things that tell you folks not to do. Look down, read notes, used acronyms. Oh, and when one left, the lady said, "How many times did he call me dumb?" I said, "I believe I counted 6 times." He said, "You don't know what I'm talking about." Needless to say, he didn't win to go any further. Now, they had been picking folks like him because he was the most polished. They picked the person who could connect with the committee and went on and won the district and won the state. And so there's a system to this stuff, folks. It's not random. They don't, eeny, meeny, miny, mo is not a process. This stuff is not random. So here is the PowerPoint that I have fixed for you. On this one. So when the first thing they ask you is what's your leadership style? Instead of saying I'm a transformational leader, you would say something like, I like to earn the respect and trust of parents, teachers, and students by making consistent, appropriate decisions. I'm child-centered, focused on issues. I try to avoid personal conflict, strive to be fair and impartial, courteous, respectful, willing to listen, respond to the issues in a timely manner, positive, approachable, open to change and new ideas. That would be what the definition of a transformational leader, but you just can't say I'm a transformational leader because they don't know what that means. So every time you get a question, you have to think, this is what they want, and this is how I express that. Assessment drives instruction. What does that mean? Instead of saying PLCs, you say, we do data analysis. We develop, teachers develop strategies based on needs of students, and they plan collaboratively. Is that not what a PLC is? But you can't say PLC because they don't know what that means. So I won't go through all of these, but I have several of these, the kinds of questions that you'll be asked in the group interview. But instead of you say, well, oh, that just means PLC. Instead of saying PLC, you have to define that for them without making them feel like they're less than or don't know. The whole notion of the group interview, again, is for you to be able to show that you can connect and communicate with stakeholders in your school. That's the notion at the group interview. The third level interview will be with the principal of the building that has the assistant principal opening. And this is where you get to show how smart you are in all of your jargon. Because you'll be talking back and forth on the same level. This is a person who is, this is a combatant. This is a person just like you who's in the business. And you'll be able to talk with them. They'll ask you about your background. They'll ask you about your professional experience. They'll ask you why you want to be a assistant principal. They'll talk to you about your goals in the next few years. Suppose you had an idea about parent-school communication you'd like to try. How would you go about it? You would tell them, well, I would come to you and show you what I did in my skip, at my current school. Those kinds of things. And you would get this rapport going with this person, and you would hopefully begin to vibrate sympathetically. Well, this is going really good. And about that time you relax and you get overconfident, and they hit you with that landmine question. And you're just so relaxed and your things are going so well, you don't think. Please remember, this is a job interview. And they're going to slip that landmine question in there on you. And that landmine question is going to be, what's your strengths and weaknesses? Your strengths are always dispositional. I'm honest, I'm caring, I'm ethical, I'm on time, I'm responsible, all of those kinds of things. You can even talk about your soft skills. What are soft skills? Let's pull that up right quick. I have work ethic, positive attitude, communication skills, time management, self-confidence. Those are dispositional soft, but those are the things that we're talking about. I'm honest, I'm ethical, I'm on time, you can depend on me, I'm confident in my ability. I'm decisive. I can communicate with others. I have a can-do attitude. I'm a hard worker. All of those kinds of things. I am a fully formed adult. You won't have to worry about those kinds of things. I have the right stuff. I will not deputize Otis and give Gomer a gun. I have good sound judgment. I know how to do this job. Your weaknesses are always things that are based on inexperience. Always. Never another option here. They're based on inexperience. That means I can fix them. I can't fix if I'm an unethical person. If I I had a fellow that came one time and interviewed for a job, and he said, I'm just not a morning person. And I had to say to him, you do understand that we're early start high school, that we open up every morning at 6 o'clock. We've already got them in off the buses, fed them, and got them in class before 7 o'clock every morning. Not have been a good thing to tell me that you aren't a morning person. We're out at 2:15 every day. To that end, I went to visit Aquanetta over at Hickory Grove. Got there and I saw a lady that I trained as an AP. I was working for Gardner Webb. I retired from the district and I was back. I said, oh, you hired her? How's she doing? He said, I've already let her go. What do you mean you've already let her go? Well, she couldn't work late in the afternoon and we're a late start school. I mean, you got to be honest with yourself and your abilities, but when you tell people what your strengths are, they're dispositional things that are fully formed. Your weaknesses, again, are inexperience. I don't know how, I haven't had a lot of experience with teacher observations, but I've went ahead and got trained so I can start doing those. I probably need to learn more about things like Power School. I've seen it from the teacher perspective, my own Power School account, and the assistant principal, or the principal let me see it when I did my clinical. I know that there's a lot more modules for administrators. I need, but I know what I don't know. So everything you list as a weakness, you know that it's a weakness, but you also know how you can fix it. Because having limited experience is a lot of times preferable to having bad experience. Or bad dispositional behaviors. So actually lack of experience can actually work in your favor. You don't have bad experience. And if you know what you don't know, you can fix it. I need to get on teacher evaluation. I haven't had much experience with EVOS, but I know how school growth is calculated. I understand how to do observations. I understand professional growth plans, how to get the best out of teachers. I haven't had a lot of critical conversations with people about that are performance-based, but I know that I can do that. I know how to fix that. Those are the kinds of things you got to fix. So your strengths are always dispositional. Your weaknesses are always experience, lack of experience that you can fix. So that's the one they're always going to slip in there on. And then your final interview of the 4 will be your superintendent interview. Your superintendent interview is going to be about big picture. It's probably going to be about, nowadays, it may be about COVID. Hopefully it won't be, but it's generally things like future ready students. That's our goal, is to get students future ready, 21st century skills. I've got a couple of items in there about those, you can't just say, well, 21st century skills, that's how we're going to get them ready. I've got a plan how to implement those in school in there, but you're going to talk about big picture things. You're not going to talk about how to schedule 3 lunch shifts. You're going to talk about bigger picture ideas. And a lot of that you will get when you do the standards with Dr. Stone in 605. That big picture idea, he'll hit a lot of that stuff with you in 605. But remembering, you're not going to go in and talk about, how to form a PLC. It's going to be, how do we get engagement, stakeholder engagement? How do we get parent buy-in? How do we prepare kids for the world that we live in today? Future ready students. How do we implement 21st century skills? How do we do those kinds of things? You say, well, isn't that a little bit, far up the line for an AP? The superintendent interview is so they can project whether you can be a principal or not. And a lot of districts won't hire you as an AP if they can't project that eventually you could be a principal down the road. And so those are the 4 types of interviews. I have several materials here. I'm monitoring our time. Let me share my screen and we'll go through these quickly. All right, we've already talked about, here are some questions that you could be asked about the first 15, and after that, they kind of repeat. About the first 15 is all you need to look at there. But again, that landmine question is always going to be there. You got to make sure that you don't hit it. Your strengths are dispositional, your weaknesses are inexperience, but you have a plan to fix those. Future ready students, this is what future ready students look like. You probably need to spend a little time with that as well. Future ready students for the 21st century, this is what they're supposed to look like. And if you say, well, this is what we want to produce students that look like this, and then they'll ask you, well, how do you do that? And that's what this is for, is this is how you implement 21st century skills that will produce a future ready student. So you need to spend a little time with this before you interview with the superintendent. But again, we're trying to produce a student that looks like this, and this is how. That's what the superintendent wants to hear. All right. Again, we've talked about data performance. That's just the app cell. You know how to do that. All right. So let's start over here. 5 things you need to bring with you when you go to interview. You need a current resume, 2 pages. That's not a suggestion. Some places will tear the 3rd page off and just throw it away. 2 pages, including your references. Make sure your references, their contact information is up to date so that people can get in touch with them. Their email and their phone is up to date on your resume. A cover letter, it's always good to have a cover letter that is specific to that district or that school on top of your 2-page resume. Your references should be on the 2nd page. Strategic plan. Now, a strategic plan basically means that you have looked at their scores and you can speak to that. In lieu of that, you can do a 2-page summary of the 6 evidences that you did that shows them that I can do an instructional plan, which is the app cell. I can do a professional development plan, which is the AppTel. I can schedule a school, which is the OMA. I can do a marketing plan to involve stakeholders, SKIP. I can do cultural advocacy to try to improve our teacher working conditions and our school working conditions. And I can put that all together and make a school improvement plan. So a 2-page summary, and I've got one of those in here for you as well. It should look like this. You just tell them quickly what you did in each of those. Now, don't give them that unless they ask for it. If they ask, well, what'd you do? What was your clinical experience about? And you can just tell them quickly, and you can hand them a copy that they could read later if they wanted to. But you putting it together focuses you in on hitting the highlights of what you did during your evidences to hit all the areas of the school improvement plan. That's basically your strategic plan, is I know how to do this. I can hit each area of the school improvement plan. That is my strategic plan for this school. And so then your portfolio, as you know, your competency folio, we set it up separate outside of your DRF portfolio for the express purpose of being able to publish and share a link to it so people can see your artifacts. That's your portfolio. That's your competency folio. That's big now. That is a real selling point for you over other candidates, in that you have artifacts, things that you have produced that show the work that you did as an intern. And you don't take it in hard copy, you simply send them a link and they can open it up and look at the things that you did. Okay. We've already talked about the dispositional soft skills that you highlight during your interview when they ask you about what your strengths are. We talked about the 4 types of AP interviews. We can let that one go. All right. We talked about that one and that one. And now we're going to talk about things not to do. No problem. 5 questions you should never ask. When they get through interviewing you, they're always going to say, is there anything you'd like to ask us? Here are the things you steer clear from. Ask one question, and it should be something innocuous. And make sure it's not something they already told you. That means you aren't been paying attention. And I think that's number 5. Any questions that shows you haven't been listening. So when they ask you, do you have any questions? Don't ask more than one question, and make sure it's not something they've covered. And it shouldn't be about how fast you get to be, promoted to principal in this district, or how much money I make. Principals don't know how much money you're going to make. That's for HR people. That's not during the interview process. When can I expect a raise? How much money can I make? Will I get my national? None of that during the interview process. And this deal about flex time options that you have. If you know, just like I was talking about when I went to Hickory Grove, if you know that you got to leave at 4 o'clock every day, and the school's not out till 4:45, and teachers can't leave till 5 o'clock, that they can't let you go out. There is no flex time. North and South Carolina, there is no such thing as flex time. That is a unicorn. It's a myth. It's against the law. Now you say, well, we got it at our school. Well, then good for you. You better not go out and tell it, but it's against the law. There is no flex time. If your work hours are from 7 or from 6:30 to 3:30, like mine were when I was high school principal for the folks there, I can't let you come in at 8:30, nor can I let you leave at 12:30. I'd rather work from 9 to 5. Well, I can't let you do that. We can't offer flex time. You have to be here when the students are here. And for you to have your duty-free time, you got to be here 30 minutes before them and 30 minutes after them, because law says I have to give you 30 minutes of duty-free time every day. So you have to be here 30 minutes before the students and at least 30 minutes after. That's the law. So don't be talking about flex time, or, it's a long way over here. The building won't get any closer just because you get the job, and the traffic won't get any better. So these are things not to ask during an interview. All right. And then 10 things you should know about your interview. We're trying to find the best person for the job. It's not an adversarial thing. We're busy, our hands are tied, we're afraid of making the wrong hire. The big thing to take away from this is we want you to help us figure out why we should hire you. We want you to do well when we're interviewing us. When you're being interviewed, folks want you to be successful. Help us help you. Make sure that you're planned and prepared and the way you do that is be planned and prepared. Know what kind of interview that you're going to have. Know what kind of questions they're going to ask you. Be prepared. Know how to do your data analysis. Understand what part of the process you're in. Make it easier for your interview. And then to summarize, here are my top 10 for job interviews, any of the 4. And here we go. Number 1, dress for success. If you wear a wig, wear your best wig. Whatever the best you've got, then wear it. I've told the story 1,000 times. I interviewed a fellow for an AP position. He was teacher work day. He had on his bad wig. I couldn't hire him because it kind of set about half sideways, like kids wear their cap with the bill over one ear. I couldn't hire him. If you're gonna come in, he should have said no. I'll be there in an hour or 2, or I'll be there tomorrow. But no, he wanted to come in that day. Come in dirty with his wig all askew, and I couldn't hire him because that's all I could ever thought about was his wig. So dress for success. Take your 2-page evidence summary. You can leave with them. Be able to refer to your activities that you did, because they're going to want to know what you did during your clinical without reading them. Both research, both the school and administration. Look at the state report card, teacher working condition survey. Know the background of the administrative team, so that you can speak, you can converse with them, but also you won't step on anybody's toes. I heard of I heard of a meeting not long ago where a person mentioned I think Western Carolina, the $500 tuition deal, and the interviewee said, well, you get what you pay for. And the person that was interviewing said, well, I graduated from Western. Well, surprise, surprise, they didn't get the job. Again, know the background of the people that you're interviewing with. Know what you don't know, and that's for that's for when you say I'm inexperienced, but I know what I don't know, and I'm going to work on these things like EVOS, Power School, RTI, PBIS, finance, be able to speak construction, the bottom line, student achievement. You can speak to those things, but also speak to, I know that I need work in these areas. Know what you don't know when they ask you what your weaknesses are. Always try to have a humorous anecdote about how you were able to turn a negative into a positive. Be prepared to discuss hours and responsibilities honestly. If it's too far away, or if it's early start, then don't go. But be out, be able to speak to those things honestly. Again, the building won't get any closer just because you get the job or the traffic any better. Know your strengths and weaknesses, so that you can speak to your dispositional strengths and your weaknesses, the things that you know what you don't know. Don't discuss salary, experience steps, national board pay. Don't engage in gossip or negative talk. To go to principal speak just every few minutes. So if you do any of that, it'll get back to the people. And then my number one pet peeve, the number one overall for me, is don't interview for a job you know that you wouldn't take just for the experience. Again, it goes back to that 10 things about I'm trying to find the best person for this job. Don't waste my time. It's not my job as an interviewer to get you experience interviewing. I mean, I've had people walk in and say, well, I could work here, but I want to know what questions they're going to ask when I go over to the good school. Well, you can't imagine how insulting that is. So again, the building won't get any closer to your house just because you get the job. The traffic won't get any better. They won't change to a student clientele that you like better than the one that they have now. And if you know that I would work there, then don't go interview. Don't waste people's time. Their job is not to get you experience. It's to find the best person that they can for the job. Again, if you do that, that'll get around to other principals, and that won't go well for you. And then finally, this is kind of after you get your job. Here's the 10 things you need to have done by the time you get to your first faculty meeting with your faculty. Know everybody's name and what they do. Barring this, move around the room and have the staff introduce themselves. Proximity and eye contact are important. Get last year's annual and go through it and grind it out. Learn every one of them, memorize them all. Very important. Get an early win, present something positive to the staff. See if the principal will let you present something, at the opening of school. Maybe present the daily, the schedule or the master schedule or something like that. But get an early win, something simple and easy. Not, don't tackle the biggest problem they had for the last 17 years at that school. Get an easy win, like, you got the trash moved out of the teacher's room or something like that. Get a simple and easy win and try to present something to the staff if you can, so that they can see that you're already a part of, them. Please remember, you're only new until lunchtime the first day. After that, you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. You can't say in October, well, I'm new. No, you were new back in August till lunchtime that first day. You're not new now. give the staff a quick overview of who you are and your professional experience. When I say quick, I mean 30 seconds or less. I'm not talking about get up and talk about, well, you know, I was an early starter in pre-K. In first grade, I was in a combo. No. Quick, 30 seconds or less. Volunteer for something nobody else wants to do. Do as I do rather than do as I say. Lend a hand. You know, volunteer for something that's quick and easy, but that you can lend a hand at. Present the opening of the school plan and be conservative, conversant if the principal will let you. Smile and laugh at the appropriate times. I was in a meeting the other day, and this fella had more ticks than a stray dog. He laughed every time he laughed. It was time you shouldn't have laughed, and every time he was supposed to laugh, he looked like he was crying. But how he ever got a job to start with, I'll never know. But I'll bet you he'll never get another. He could. I thought about this interviewing when I watched him in that meeting. Is nobody would ever hire him. Make sure that you smile and laugh at the appropriate time. That means you're paying attention. Ask questions and take notes so you can follow up on requests. Carry your pad with you. See mine right here? It goes in my pocket. Right. You know I'm old. I have to write stuff down. I even wrote it down when I was young. I bought pads and passed out to all the administrative team. Write it down. Don't depend on your memory to remember it. Write it down. Take notes. Follow up on. I need books in my room, or I need 3 more desks. Write it down. The good thing about more modern times is generally, you know, I always tell them, shoot me an email, but write it down. Make sure that you follow up on requests. Recognize someone for something positive that you've seen. Be specific. Don't just say, everybody's room looks good. You know, Dr. Miraglia's room looks good because she did this, or she has this nice bulletin board up. You know, she's done something nice inside of her room. You know, recognize somebody for something positive. Don't complain or seem worried about being ready for the opening of school. Kids will show up and school will open, whether you're ready or not. Again, you got to be like a duck, you know, just calm on the surface. You got to paddle, you know, you're paddling hard underneath the surface, but on the surface, you got to be calm. You've got to exude confidence and leadership. And then finally, don't mention how busy you are or how hard you're working. That's the expectation for school administrators. That's the whole notion. Don't expect anybody to have sympathy for you. You signed up for this. So you must know what kind of interview that you're going to have in order to be planned and prepared for that interview. Interviewing is a skill. It's not happenstance. You don't just look into jobs. If you're planned and prepared and you know what you know and you understand what you're getting yourself into, you can maneuver your way through the system. And then you still may not get the job because there's always a goodness of fit, or we're looking for this or for that. But at least you won't knock yourself out by not understanding or knowing the process. I'd like to thank the faculty that joined us tonight. Dr. Sanders, I see her. I've seen Dr. Maraglia. I saw Dr. Caton. And I do want to say thank you. Sarah, for some reason, you're always in the middle of my screen smiling, and I always enjoy that. Sarah Wolf, I don't know that I know Sarah, but I'm always glad to see. She's always right in the middle of my screen. I guess she's the first one that jumps in. And so always glad to see her smiling face. Any of our faculty like to say something before we go? Something to add? Dr. Stone, I see you're still here. Anybody have anything they'd like to close with tonight?
No, just reach out to us if we can ever help you with
Yeah.
anything as you're interviewing.
I do letters. Thank you, Dr. Stone. I will do you a reference letter. Now, if you need one of those letters that says that you're going to graduate this spring or this summer, the licensure officer, Ms. Turbyfield, does that. That says you're on track to graduate, that licensure letter. But now, if you want a reference letter, I do those, do them all the time. If you need a reference filled out, they send them to me. I probably do 2 of those a day. I'll do all your references. If you want a reference from one of the professors that you've had that you like, that you think knows you better, get them to do one for you. We do letters. We do all the things that we can do. I do phone interviews. I fill out the electronic ones. We'll do anything. Just reach out and let us know. It's always good for us to know that you've applied or you're in the running or you've got an interview coming up. I'll do an individual session with you if you need it, whatever it takes. The whole point of this program was to get you a license, get you a job. And if that's what you want to do, we'll do that. So the question about the praxis, nobody on this screen from North Carolina has to take the praxis right now. Starting in August, everybody will have to take it. The South Carolina people already have to take it. The waiver for the praxis after 12 years runs out August 1st. So you folks don't have to take the praxis in North Carolina. If you want to get licensed in South Carolina, you do. 5412. But that comes back in August 1st. So everybody on this screen will be done by August 1st. You don't have to worry about it. Now, after that, all bets are off. If you don't finish on time, there could be an issue. You may have to take it. But you're all prepared for it. Everybody passes it. You are well prepared. We crosswalk all the standards. If you look at the rubrics for all the evidences, we have all the standards crosswalk. We don't have anybody we've never had a person would have a problem passing the practice because we cover the content. That's what we do in class. Anybody else for the good of the group? Nothing else tonight? All right. It's good to see you all. I will see everybody in my class on Wednesday night. Safe travels.